Good morning, Amy Lassen.
Good morning.
Hey, it's Charlie Bengal with Remax Allegiance, and welcome to the Allegiance Way show. My co-host today is Amy Lassen, an associate broker from Remax Properties in Colorado Springs. So today I think we wanted to discuss kind of once we find the buyer, how do we create loyalty? I've been hearing a lot from agents about, there's agents or there's these customers and clients that are shopping around a bit. They want to work with more than one agent because that agent may have pocket listings. Although maybe the pocket listing problem will be solving itself here shortly with the new NAR regulations that come out soon. But anyway, what's the best way to prove to a buyer that I'm the best for you and you should work with me exclusively? Right? That's a big question and probably a topic that we could spend tons of time on in addition to just today, but let's start with that.
Wow. Okay. Just way to just put it in a nutshell there. I think asking questions is the simplest answer to your simple, direct question, right? Rather than pounding our chest and trying to prove to them that we're awesome and telling them that we sell more houses than other people. I think the more you get into somebody's head and make it about them, the more likely they are to come back to you. But there are way more steps too to providing service.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay, cool. So I am, and I warned you, Charlie, that I'm a little bit rabid on this topic. I feel so strongly that most of us don't take buyers seriously, or I should say the buyer process,
Okay.
right? You like me, I have gas in my car, what more do you want, right?
Right.
And so for me, the buyer process is very, very similar to the listing process, right? It's interviewing, it's educating, it's following up and following through on a consistent basis and for years to come. So I don't know how quickly you want to dive into what I think are the components of a buyer process. We could do that and then dissect.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So for me, first things first, you need to follow an intake process, right? The very first time somebody says, hey, I'm calling on 123 Main Street, how much is it, right? You need to be able to be prepared with more than it's 300,000. Why, right? and a lot of people, they feel like the standard question that you've got to remember to ask is, are you working with an agent? Have you spoken to a lender?
Right.
And I always say, okay, sorry, that's not the question. I think the best way to get in the heart and mind of a buyer is to pretend that they were one of your sisters or something, My sister calls to tell me she's moving to Florida. I wouldn't say, are you working with an agent? Have you spoken to a lender? I'd say, really? How come?
Yeah.
What's going on? Let's talk about that, right? So first things first, be human. That will take you far.
Yes.
Following a standard process, and luckily Remax Allegiance has a standard buyer intake form, will help you not forget the basics, right? You're checking it off. You're making sure that you ask all the important things. How soon?
And part of this is rapport building, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's what I'm saying. When you make it about them.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good point. That this form is not necessarily going to put a wet blanket on the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's to remind you to stay engaged about the things that matter.
Good.
How soon do you have to be moved? Are you currently renting, right? The stuff that you forgot to ask and it was like, oh no, later.
Right.
Then for me, it's a formal buyer presentation. And Remax Allegiance has one. I always use my formal buyer presentation.
Okay.
I've shared before that the craziest way I ever did it was on my knees, or it was on the steering wheel in the front of my car.
Okay.
I had somebody who was in a big hurry. She had rushed down from the next biggest metro. We only had so much time. We had 4 houses to see, and there was no way I was going to show her houses without doing my presentation. So I had honestly put it in a 3-ring binder because I didn't have anything sexier. And it was just like, and I was rushing her through the major components about radon, which is really high in Colorado.
Yeah.
And different environmental hazards and things to keep in mind. And I think it took me 10 minutes. And I just felt like a little bit like a train wreck, quite frankly. I thought, oh my goodness, this lady's gonna be annoyed with me now.
Right.
I forced this on her in an awkward way. And she looked at me and she said, wow, that was really helpful. That was not what I expected. Okay. And that was the worst I've ever done it. I've done it on the counter, in a kitchen, in a vacant house. Ideally, I do it in the conference room and we take our time.
Right.
Everybody gets to have a say. We really walk through things. Now, I have agents push back on me all the time and say, buyers don't have patience for that crap. Oh, really? Really? Oh, yeah, I asked, do you have experience buying houses? And they said yes. They don't know what they don't know. So frankly, I never ask either of those questions. Do you have patience for this? Or do you have experience already? I
Right.
just say, I have a process. Let me educate you about that.
So,
I do.
so that buyer process, I'm thinking about our buyer book, which by the way, there's an example at theallegianceway.com, and you click on marketing for buyers. The intake form that you discussed will be on theallegianceway.com under checklists in a day or two. So the buyer book that you and I are familiar with, you know, it talks about the agent, it talks about RE/MAX Allegiance, it talks about RE/MAX, and then it has almost like an A to Z guide of how to buy a home and the steps within that.
Mhm.
There's also a little bit of the book that talks about why you should choose that agent and what makes he or she special, what makes, what do they do that is more than what an average agent does. So, you know, one of the topics is, you know, I'll door knock in your favorite neighborhood once you identify that favorite neighborhood, right? In other words, we're not just gonna put you on on an auto search on Bright MLS and wish, wait, and hope. And when the listing shows up, the listing shows up, right? I'm gonna go out and try to find your dream home. And I think that, you know, so what are maybe some other differentiators that you can think of that we should be putting in these buyer books that makes us look different, special, right? What makes us special? So I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about this idea that, oh, they've bought before, they don't need a proper consultation.
Mhm.
And I'd also like to talk about, if there's time, what I like to call the VIP buyer experience.
Mhm.
So let's kind of start with the differentiators, if you will, right?
Sure.
So being with RE/MAX Allegiance or RE/MAX could be a differentiator, but like on the more individual level,
Mhm.
what is a differentiator for that agent, or what are some that you can think of?
Well, I don't want to sound like a one-trick pony, but I think that if you would practice your buyer presentation a lot, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you know it well is your differentiator. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think offering to door knock, which I have done, and I,
Mm-hmm.
I have offered it and I have done it,
Yep.
rarely is effective.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not actually the thing that's going to fix it.
Yep.
So rather than offer up the shiny objects,
Mm-hmm.
and we always have chocolate covered strawberries at closing, like
Right.
unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to not fail to do is to tell them that a home warranty in our market is $400, and whether or not we're competing or the seller's willing to be negotiable on that,
Mm-hmm.
you could provide it to yourself, and here's the details of that.
Okay.
If I do a really, really good job of educating them about their options for
Mm-hmm.
purchasing in a crazy competitive market, that is my differentiator.
Okay.
Seriously, right? Empowering them so that they're not constantly in a panic that they don't understand what their options are.
Right. And I would say that sometimes the shiny object gets the client.
Sure.
Sometimes the drone photos gets the listing, even though it's not going to sell the listing, right?
Sure, sure.
We actually used to do a TV show. This was
Mhm,
this was probably 12 or 13 years ago.
mhm,
And it was 30 minutes on Saturday morning on the local ABC affiliate.
mhm,
And the agents would be able to showcase their listings.
mhm,
And some people watching this show will remember this.
mhm,
And agents would come to us and they'd be like, well, that's, I didn't get a lead from the show.
mhm,
And we're like, but it's a listing tool,
mhm,
right? That's
mhm.
the whole idea, is being able to have more tools in your toolbox. So that's where I was going with
Yeah, and I
the door
so get
knocking, the yikes campaign, that sort of a thing. Sometimes if you've got somebody who's interviewing 3 agents, the shiny object helps. However, I would say, to your point, if you're interviewing 3 agents, chances are the other 2 are not going to have a formal buyer process, because very few agents do.
correct. So I actually competed once in my career for a buyer.
Okay.
It was just like a listing presentation. Everybody had to do their presentation. So
Right.
and they told me, very, very sweet young couple had been referred to me by a coworker. Their sister had also referred them to her favorite agent, who was
Okay.
terrific. I knew the
Yeah.
woman. She
Right.
was in my
Right.
office. And when they told me who I was competing against, I said, she is a terrific agent.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did my presentation. And at the end, they hired me.
Right, because the terrific agent probably didn't have a buyer presentation.
Or yeah, didn't choose to do it, because I will
Yeah.
tell you, most agents undervalue this part of the process. And to your point about, am I competing?
Mm-hmm.
How many of our listeners are, the majority of their business is cold leads, right? Online, cold leads, compete. Not that many.
Right.
Every
Agreed.
single one of us says, oh, my business is all repeat referral.
Yep.
How much? Oh, 85%.
Yep.
Okay, well, are you doing the buyer presentation for the people who already know, like, and trust you? No, I don't have to. They already know, like, and trust me. We're not doing it to trick them into using you.
Right.
We're doing it to make it a wonderful process. So here's what I want everyone to understand. What you sell is not houses. What you sell is your service model. Your service model is educating and guiding buyers and sellers through the sometimes complicated process
Mm-hmm.
of gaining or dispensing with a very, very costly asset.
Yes.
So
And that is our value forever.
forever.
Right? Forever. You know, and the people that are saying, oh, you know, this is, you can be put out of business by technology or this, that, and the other. Right. It is, you know, that is not accurate. It is that valued expert in helping somebody with the biggest transaction of their lives, like
Yep.
you just said.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So do it. And then people say, well, I didn't have to. It was my mom. And I love to say, really? Your mom is the one who gets your worst service? Quit selling. The person that I work with doesn't need to understand the process. I'll just hold the cards, and when things get difficult, I'll just pull it out of the fire.
Right.
That creates for a drama-filled transaction. It's not necessarily the best way to do it.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
I wish I'd written, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wish I'd written down your three, because I'm not remembering them in order, but keep going.
Okay. So I believe the second one was this idea that you don't have to do a presentation because they're experienced. And,
Right.
and I would argue that they're not experienced in today's market, right?
True.
Today's market is different than a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And I just implore people to discuss today's market and what are the average days on market? How much time do you have to choose? I've got a friend of mine who's looking to buy up in the district, and we were texting last night, and he was really disappointed that a place that he wanted to see was already gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I replied and said, it's not a slow market.
Yeah.
Right? This is not a slow market. So do you have to decide in 10 seconds and, you know, write the offer on the hood of the car and all this and you know, all this and that? No, but you don't have weeks to be deliberate. Right.
Right.
So there's that piece, and it's all, and I think another valuable stat, and I realize this is coming from an analytical,
Yeah.
but what is that list price to sales price ratio? Is it 98%? So are you looking at at most a 2% discount? And if that's the case, then you won't have the buyer that's looking at $550,000 townhomes. And when you say, okay, you know, we found the home of your dreams, what do you want to offer? $489.
Right.
And you're like blown away, but it's because we didn't prepare them. Right.
So it's totally our fault.
Always.
Totally our fault.
It's always our fault.
I am not an analytical, and stats are an absolutely essential part of every buyer process. You have to do the stats. So join us today for stats you should know and when to share them. We have a class on stats. We have a class on buyer presentation at RE/MAX Allegiance, and we have a class on exceeding buyer expectations. Take them all, right?
Yes.
So next time you complain, huh?
Go ahead. I was just going to say, and Coach Amy teaches all of these. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Hi. Next time you complain to anyone in your office or your significant other about a bad buyer, ask yourself what caused the current problem, and if you could have staved it off with better expectations.
Right.
I had someone in my office vent to me about how her deal was blowing up. She couldn't make it to class because this buyer was freaking out. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I know this one's personality. I knew we'd get to the bottom. I'm like, interesting. What happened? Oh, he wanted to know, can I or can I not have a warranty? When is that going to get brought up? Well, she didn't do a formal buyer process.
Mm-hmm.
It occurred to him in the middle to wonder if that was an option. I think he was frustrated by the fact that he had to think of everything. So it just made him insecure, right? Another thing is just exactly what you said. When it's time to make an offer, so I go through negotiating strategy in the buyer process.
Okay.
I do the stats, yes, but I also talk about negotiating strategy.
Mm-hmm.
What is your expectation? How many houses do you expect to see? What is your, I never pay full price for a house. We've all had that buyer, right? So we talk about negotiating strategy up front. Now, if you saw, when you see the length of this presentation, and mine has gotten longer, you may say, this is too much. People say it to me all the time. Well, I use the whole thing. I use it every time. I walk them through. I'm good at it. Okay. I'm good at it. I'm cheerful, and nobody complains to me. Now, is it too much to learn in a single sitting? Will they be overwhelmed? Potentially. You've got to continue to follow up with those same components as they arise. Remember, we talked about home inspection. Here we are. But don't have it be the first time they heard the details on the day of.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, another point to kind of knowing those stats and knowing the market is, what contingencies can a buyer expect, right? There's some markets in the country where if you want a home inspection, it's got to be before you even write the offer. Right, there's not any for informational purposes. They're not going to allow it. Others, you can have a regular home inspection contingency, and the seller would even make repairs. Right, it just depends on the market.
That's true.
And frankly, in these big metro areas, it depends on, in some cases, the neighborhood within the market. Right,
Yeah,
so it really depends. And I think educating even the most veteran buyer when it comes to this, unless they just bought a month ago, right, it's going to be different than when they did purchase, right? It just is.
But if they didn't buy a month ago from you,
It's going to be different anyway. I agree.
Nobody's ever done it for them before.
Right.
I will tell you, I was not the third or fourth buyer presentation my buyers have seen. I have always been the first.
So the book, I have some clients that are also making videos, right? And we can talk about this another time, but just touching on this, the idea that there is a video on every step of the transaction. And sometimes videos are hard. Videos are easier when you're interviewing someone else, right? It is easier to do a coach's show with 2 people than it is for me to just talk for 30 minutes. That's me personally, right? Somebody else may have a different opinion, but I like the idea of having a video series, and then this is on YouTube. So you're positioning yourself as a real estate expert, and then you're texting the video to your client after every step. Congratulations on being ratified. The home inspection is Thursday at 2. Click here to see what happens then, right? And there's a discussion, hopefully you interviewing a home inspector about what to expect. And to be able to do that every time. So you have a buyer presentation on the front end, and then it's being solidified, if you will, by these videos as you go. Disappointment only comes from underlying expectations. That's where disappointment comes from in life. And if you're doing a buyer presentation in the front and you have these videos as you go, the chances of disappointment because of misaligned expectations is very slim. Now, sometimes the seller does something that we don't expect, or the home inspection doesn't go well. You can't fix everything. No. However, this goes a long way in having a much smoother transaction. So the third piece was this idea of this VIP buyer experience. And I saw this mentioned on a Facebook group. And the premise was, I'm having trouble gaining loyalty. What are some ideas in doing that, right? And there's different ways to get loyalty. There's the handshake model, right? There's the buyer-broker agreement. The buyer-broker agreement is likely preferred. We know that there's many people in the country that they do not get a buyer-broker agreement.
Sure.
I'm one of those people. My clients sign a buyer-broker agreement when we write the offer. At that point, we are married, right? Whether we get this house or not, that's when I've always done it. Other people are able to do it up front. That's fantastic. But I think going through the buyer presentation and asking the question, are you comfortable working with me exclusively? And I'd love to hear your script for that. And then shaking hands even and looking each other in the eye, I think goes much further than, hey, let's show some houses, right? And then you out the next week, and then the third week, it turns out they're also using another agent. You didn't have any idea. So at what point do you, either personally, or at what point do you ask for exclusivity? Is it after that buyer presentation?
So yes, well, so now, because I'm a coach and a trainer, I really, really do work by referral, and so I am less virulent about when I get it signed.
Yeah.
But back when, in the beginning of my career, when it was all online leads and everybody I met was cold, it was that day. Now, I would walk them through the buyer process, and I would teach them about agency, and I would say, you have my good faith, loyalty, and fidelity. You have my absolute bias. If you want to work with somebody who isn't making it about you, because in our state there's 2 different postures, and one is the agency relationship and the other is this detached, objective, I don't care about you, you don't care about me. And I just tell them, it's not humanly possible for me to serve you doing this, so this is what I do.
Okay.
If today goes well, you're signing this.
Okay.
And they go, okay. And then it does. And we get in the car. So I'm just really, really aggressive about saying, this is what I do, and I don't do it different. And
Okay,
they go,
good.
okay.
So getting back to this VIP buyer experience, the idea was you are quote unquote stacking the cool. We've heard that before,
Yeah.
right? And this this group of agents that was discussing this in this Facebook group, they were saying, you know, use one of my preferred lenders, you get a free appraisal, right? Use one of my preferred home inspectors, you save $100 on the home inspection. Use me and I will get you a home warranty, right? Use me and I will have the love it or list it for free guarantee. And that idea is if you don't love your home or you need to move for any reason within the first year, I will list it for free. And I was saying to a group of agents, I think on a group coaching call that we do at Allegiance a week or two ago, even if you had that VIP buyer experience on one page and they signed it, that is better than nothing. Like if you're not comfortable going to the full buyer broker agreement, having that one page, even if it's not binding, signing something makes it feel a little more real, right? And there's other agents across the country that say in order to be eligible for this VIP buyer experience, you have to sign a buyer broker agreement. That's just the way that it is. If you want this stuff, you're signing the agreement. Oh, by the way, if you hate me, right, you can get out of the agreement, right? So a lot of agents have this guarantee, right? We're going to get along, you're going to enjoy the experience, or you can give me, 24 hours notice and be done, right? So no, I don't think anybody wants to work with people that don't want to work with us. So the buyer broker agreement does create that loyalty. So thoughts on that VIP buyer experience? Do you know people that have implemented that? Has that helped their business?
I do know the people that I personally know are really, really large teams. And now this is going to sound a little unkind, but my observation is that these are churn teams, right? They have a churn of buyer agents. They have a churn of transactions, and they're trying to do 200, 300 transactions a year. And so it's any way they can churn and jam them in. I think the majority of us don't operate at that level. I personally don't like it. If I present my presentation to you and I quiz you about your goals and I educate you about the market and you choose to go with somebody who gave you a free warranty, bye-bye.
You're good with that. Okay.
And it's not because I am unwilling to cough up the $400. It's because that is a person, it's going to be difficult down the road.
Interesting.
Every single day they're going to say, really? Really? Now they're freaking out about every little thing. They're melting down over a doorknob. If that's the thing that motivates them, then we're not a fit. Because I educate buyers and I reassure buyers. I negotiate for buyers. I will save you more money than I will bonus you. Same thing for sellers. If you find somebody who'll cut their commission, God bless you. It won't be me. And
so
I'm
competing on value, not on price.
100% that's me.
100%
that's me.
Right. Fair enough. What else today?
Oh, so
I was going to say we just went over my 3 things. We got 5 minutes left. So
okay, but and I feel like we almost need visuals because this is a lot of check. We're kind of ticking this stuff off, and it's maybe hard for everybody to track. But I want you to think seriously about having a formal buyer process and just trust me. Trust me, because agents push back on me all the time. They tell me what their problem is. I tell them the solution is having a process, and then they argue with me. How about this? Go practice, go learn the buyer presentation, get really, really good at it, and get back to me and tell me that it blew up in your face, okay? Because I will tell you, I do it all the time. I practice it, I edit it, I demonstrate it, and it goes well because I'm determined that it will. So please commit to process and commit to consistent service. And let the outliers be the outliers. This is one of my new pet peeves in coaching, is that when we offer good bumpers, they start throwing their ball up over the bumper. It's like, sweetie, I gave you a lane to stay in.
Right.
Stay in it. Quit telling me what if the sky falls. Stuff happens.
Right.
But you're not currently working within a process. So please commit to that. So practice. The other thing I want to clarify about stats is don't do big picture stats unless they're helpful in this circumstance. Pull up the actives, pending, sold, whatever you pending, under contract, whatever they are in your market, for their target property.
Okay.
for their target property, right? So they want an X type of house in X type of area. Those are the stats that I
Right.
pull.
Right.
Maybe
Yes.
it's
Agreed.
30 days sold, maybe it's
Yep.
60 days sold, but show them these are the houses that you were hoping to find. There are 2 available, and look at that, 40 under contract,
Right.
right? And in my market, I would say for the sweet spot house, we are looking at 101% of asking at the time
Okay.
of contract.
Okay.
That list to sell ratio is more than 100%.
Right. Right. And what valuable information to know.
Well, and I show them at a table.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the other thing. Please don't ever say to me, but Amy, I told them.
Mm-hmm.
I told them it was a competitive market.
Right.
That's rude. You're asking them to trust you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had a coaching client tell me that he had the most disloyal buyer. He said, millennials are so disloyal. He didn't believe me. He Googled it. He doesn't have to believe you. Show him.
Right.
So he has something wonderful like, oh, I get it.
Right. Right.
Quit complaining that people don't trust you. I don't think I trust you either.
Right. Right.
So it's time to show, don't tell. Right.
Yes, I like
and
that.
then the last thing is, when you followed a really quality process, you've educated them every step of the way, you found a reason to stay in touch, even when things get quiet because you're under contract and most stuff is passed, then have a post-closing follow-up protocol. Don't just,
Right.
thank
Bye.
them, close and run away, right? So you're calling them that 1 day, 3 days, 7 days after. You have it scheduled in your CRM to follow up with them. Maybe you're having pizza delivered to their house on moving day. Those are those types of extra VIP type touches that you don't need to bribe people with.
Right.
Just be in community with them and then follow up with them in the years to come and schedule a year from now to send them a beautiful bound home value report and stay in their life forever. You are their partner in the home ownership journey.
Yes, I like that. I think that might be about it. So again, the buyer presentation example is already on theallegianceway.com.
Yep.
Click on marketing for buyers. Some of the other collateral that Amy mentioned will be on in the next couple days. You've got a class today at 2:00 Eastern, and happy Thanksgiving.
Stats. Yeah. Oh, and it's not too late. Okay, we have 1 whole minute.
Yes.
It's not too late to wish happy Thanksgiving to your clients too. Even if it's a text, maybe you just want to write 5 handwritten notes to those really special clients that you closed this year. Don't overthink it. Something's better than nothing.
Agreed. We've got 6 or 8 weeks of easy contacts for people, right? Have a happy Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving? Happy holidays. Happy New Year. I mean, it's just, the phone is so much lighter now that we have these options, right? Come mid-January, the phone's going to get heavy again. So take advantage of reasons to call people, take advantage of that light phone. So we'll leave it there. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I know that us at RE/MAX Allegiance are grateful for you and how you've been helping us throughout the last couple of years, Amy. And those of you that have not taken advantage of Amy's classes, I would really encourage and implore you to do so.
Thank you so much, Charlie. It is my pleasure. Teaching is my absolute favorite.
Awesome. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.